Ready? I'm going to call the Washoe County Planning Commission meeting of Tuesday, May 5th, 2020 to order. Can we have a determination of a quorum, please?
Sorry. Larry Chesney,
Here.
Francine Donchik,
Here.
Jim Barnes,
Sorry, that's my fault. Maybe we might- You want to continue through the list?
Sure. Thomas Bruce,
Here.
Sarah Savilicek,
Here.
Katie Nelson,
Here.
Jim Barnes.
Here.
Okay, yes, we have a quorum.
Okay, the pledge. Commissioner Nelson, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Mr. Edwards, could you read the ethics law announcement for us, please?
I don't think
Yes.
that they heard me.
Board members, planning commission members are reminded that if with respect to any matter or any person coming before the planning commission tonight, hold on one second. One, you have received a gift or loan. Two, you have a pecuniary interest. Three, you have a commitment in a private capacity, such as a family, employment, business, or similar relationship. Or four, you provided representation or counseling before an agency to a person or entity for compensation within the last year on a matter being considered tonight.
When I get to a point.
Then you must disclose that gift, loan, interest, commitment, or prior representation at the time the matter is being considered. And you must furthermore abstain from deliberation or voting on the matter if it is clear that the gift, loan, interest, commitment, or prior representation would materially affect the independence of judgment of a reasonable person. Planning commissioners are also reminded that, under planning commission rules, if you have had any contact outside this meeting with any persons interested in a matter coming before the commission today, you should disclose the nature of that contact at this meeting.
You need to.
Thank you. Trevor, could we have the appeal procedure, please?
Yeah, most decisions rendered by the Planning Commission are appealable to the Board of County Commissioners. If you disagree with the decision of the Planning Commission and you want to appeal its action, you may do so in writing within 10 calendar days from the date that the decision being appealed is signed by the Planning Commission Chair and/or the Secretary of the Planning Commission, filed with the Secretary of the Planning Commission, and mailed to the original applicant in the proceeding being appealed in accordance with Washoe County Code. Please call the planning staff immediately at 328-6100 for information on the appeal procedure and application fee.
Thank you. Now, I want to read an introductory statement for all of you tuning in on Zoom. Any participants wishing to speak via Zoom need to sign in and identify themselves with their first and last names when they're called upon. If you are not a panelist and you wish to speak, please only click the raise your hand prompt symbol during the public comment portion of the item you wish to speak on. All panelists on Zoom should mute their mics until they're ready to speak. If anyone is having difficulty hearing the audio through Zoom, it may be helpful to use earbuds. In order to be able to see chambers and presentations, please ensure you open an additional tab to stream Washoe County TV Live or YouTube. Please be aware that YouTube may have a delay versus the actual chamber proceedings. Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Identify yourself.
This is Jim Barnes. I wanted to make sure you can hear me.
Oh yeah, we can hear you, Jim.
Okay, is my picture up there? I can't tell if my picture's up or not.
I can't either. It's not on our screens.
I can enable his video if you would like.
Yeah, maybe you could enable the video for me, please?
Where will we see him?
Oh, actually, I can't. He's gonna have to do it himself.
You gotta do it yourself, Jimmy.
Yeah, Jim, it's on your control panel at the bottom on your menu bar of the Zoom page that you're on.
Yes.
It's next to the one that says mute. There's a stop video button. If you click on that, it should enable your video. As long as you have a camera on your device. Do you have a camera on your device?
Yes, I do. Okay, there I go.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Nate.
You're welcome.
Everything good? All right. Do we have any general public comment?
We have no public comment.
No public comment, seeing no public comment. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda?
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Doncheck and a second by Commissioner Nelson. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Passes unanimously. Okay, we're going to move on to item 7, public hearings. The first public hearing is tentative subdivision map, case number WTM 19-005, Lux Locker.
All right, for possible action, hearing, and discussion to approve a commercial tentative subdivision map to allow the subdivision of 3.66 acres into 98 commercial condominium lots for personal storage units with 2.24 acres of common area, common open space for Lux Locker LLC. The proposal also requests a reduction of the required setbacks to 0 on all sides of the lot. If approved, the project will consist of individual storage units within a commercial building that will be available for purchase and ownership by individual owners as opposed to common ownership and individual unit rentals. Representing Washoe County in this matter is Staff Planner Julie Olander.
Okay. Do we have any disclosures by commissioners, ethics or ex parte? Okay. Julie Orlander.
Julie, is your mic on?
Yes, it's on, but my map, my slide is, no, there we go. Okay.
Technology gremlins.
It's taped. All right, let's try this again. So this is a tentative map. They're requesting for a 3.6 acre site. 98 lots will be created, and then 2.24 acres will remain for the common open space. This development is a non-residential condominium, and the units will be owned by individual owners. However, they'll just own the units. They will not own the walls. The walls will be considered common to the whole space. The site is located off of Pyramid Highway, off of Digital and Ingenuity. The parcels are master plan and zoned industrial. Industrial allows personal storage. There are other storage units to the north, and then there's also one under construction to the south. Recently, we brought before you a development code update, which was to allow the building placement standards to be altered for setbacks and minimum lot size, width. They could be varied if that was done through a tentative map or a special use permit. And that's what you have before you. You have a tentative map before you, so they can vary those setbacks. So they're proposing to vary the setbacks on the 98 units, 98 lots where the storage units would be located. Typically, the lots are, the setbacks are 15 feet in the front and rear and 10 on the sides, and then the minimum width of the lots is 100 square feet. And the lots will meet that requirement, the 100 square feet. The common area is going to meet the typical I standard setback. So there are going to be, I thought my picture was next. And currently, the site is being developed under a building permit. So they've already come in for the building permit to construct these storage units and the buildings on the site. And landscaping and parking requirements, all those requirements have been reviewed through the building permit process, and they have met code. The storage units will be managed by commercial ownership, a commercial owners association versus an HOA. This is a little bit different, but it's typically the same type of thing. They'll be looking at maintaining the site, the building, the gates, the driveway, the landscaping, and so on. There is an office on the site, just as you enter in, off of not going to say this right now. Ingenuity, thank you. Thank you. And that will be used primarily by the owners. They are not planning to have staff on the site, and the site is gated. It is located within the Spanish Springs Business Park, and water service is provided by Truckee Meadows Water Authority. They're going to use affluent water from City of Sparks for their irrigation. The fire station is located at Pyramid and La Posada, that's Fire Station 46. The sheriff will provide service to the site. And as I said earlier, there has been a building permit issued for this site. So all those kind of typical things that we look at the tentative map application process have primarily been reviewed because that building permit has been issued. So this is a picture I thought I had a little earlier. So you can see that they still have landscaping and they still meet the setbacks along the street. The buildings are set back as any properties would be set up for industrial. So they have that 10-foot back from the street, from the front, which you have in a sense 2 fronts off of Ingenuity, I said it correctly, and Digital. However, and then the other side is 15. And here's another view of it. I believe the applicant will show a better view than I have of this, showing the different sizes of the storage units themselves. So they do vary in size by the color. Here's an elevation of the structure. The small building you can see in the front is where the office is going to be located. Spanish Springs CAB did not meet during April and March, or March and April. And so we did not have the opportunity to present this to them. Worksheets were sent to the individual CAB members, and I did receive 1 worksheet back, and they had no comments on this application. Various agencies and departments did review this application, and the comments are either included in your staff report, and then they also have conditions of approval. I did not receive any recommendations for denial. 1,100 properties, 1,100 feet from the site were noticed, and that basically were 39 properties were noticed. Staff was able to make all 10 findings. They're listed in the staff report on page 7 and 8. And here's a possible motion for recommendation of approval. And I'm available for any questions. And I believe Michael Gordon is also on Zoom online to present a applicant's presentation.
Thank you, Julie.
Mr. Chair, if I could also offer just a little clarification on that setback reduction. It's not to vary setbacks from existing property lines or public roads. It's really just from internal drive aisles
Right.
and from adjacent units.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a unique concept. It really is. Does the applicant wish to give a presentation?
Glenn Armstrong, Mr. Chairman. I'm the surveyor of record for the tentative map. I am not the applicant, however. If you have any questions on the map itself, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. Go ahead. I think he just said he's available for.
No, that was the engineer.
No, that's the surveyor.
That was the surveyor, that wasn't the applicant.
I know I spoke with him today, or emailed him today, and he was planning on being available through Zoom. Not sure if he had some technical problems. We could show his slide, and they have some different pictures that might be helpful for you to see. It's up to you. You can ask, we could look at them or not.
I'll leave it up.
Certainly, we can
Commission,
Look at them.
look at them and see if it gives us a different perspective. And then, Mr. Chairman, I do have questions when we come to that point.
Okay. Oh, good, keep going.
Oh, boy. Storage condos is a new term.
Everybody good?
It is a new term.
Next. 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 Great presentation. Next. The elevations. Next. Speak up if anybody wants to go back to a slide or anything. Next.
Can someone give a little narration on what's happening right now?
I can.
Yes, please.
So now we're looking at some elevations they have provided.
Where are you looking at these?
These are on the Lux Locker presentation. We're just going through it slide by slide. So at this point, we have looked at some overviews. They had listed what the project is going to involve and what you can store at the project. And now we're looking at some elevations that they have provided.
Is that being viewed in the chambers?
It is. It's on the big screens here in the chambers.
Yeah.
They can look at it through YouTube.
Well, because I have a view of the chambers right now, and I don't know if it's frozen or something, but I'm not seeing anything on the screens behind the dais.
Yeah, if I may, sir, and we do apologize for the
This is Nate.
This is Nate.
people that are viewing through Zoom. We are not able to show that presentation through the Zoom software at this time. So, yeah, you'll have to bear with us, and hopefully audio will be able to provide as much information as we can through audio. What's happening right now is the Planning Commission is simply going through the applicant's slides, looking at the pictures, and they're providing a written narrative on most of the slides that we're showing.
Yeah, Trevor, hey, it's Nate. I'm just wondering if it can be put onto the screens behind the dais. Is that possible?
It is on the screen behind the dais.
Not on my view, it's not.
Yeah,
Jim, are you seeing it on yours?
No, I'm not, Nate.
Yeah, and I just saw somebody in the audience just send in a message saying that they're not seeing the presentation either.
That's right, yeah.
it's,
Then would it be appropriate to end their presentation because it'll be part of the record and be accessible to the public?
That's probably not a bad idea. And if I can provide more clarification too, most of the slides that we're looking at are showing the appearance of the proposed facility. Keep in mind that the facility itself is allowed by right with a building permit. I believe that's already been issued. Julie can clarify that. So what really is before the Planning Commission tonight with this item is simply whether or not to approve a tentative map to allow for the subdivision of the individual units to be basically a condominium, commercial condominium style storage units. Correct me if I'm wrong, Julie, is that correct?
No, that's correct. This is Julie Olander with Planning and Building. I was just told by IT that you can view it on YouTube. You should be able to see this presentation on YouTube. So I don't know if that would help certain people out there if they want to be able to see it there too, and then also be on Zoom.
because they could share screen.
And also, the agenda, if the public is that interested, the agenda was published, and they can bring the, not this presentation, but they can bring the application and the staff report, which is very comprehensive. So I guess,
Mr. Chairman. if I-
Trevor and Kathy, Nate, again, I have a suggestion here, and I think that, I have a question first and then a suggestion. My question is the slideshow uploaded or linkable off of the county's website?
I put all of the slideshows up the next day, so I put all of them on the website the next day.
did you hear that, Nate?
Tomorrow.
Next day, I always put all the slideshows up the next day.
Right, so what I'm wondering is if that's something that is that something that you would be able to do right now or in a couple of minutes?
We don't believe, right, I don't believe that's a possibility at this time, Nate.
So we can suspend this unless people want to go through YouTube to see what we're seeing. And then, because I know it's cumbersome, but you would have to have YouTube and Zoom.
Two screens.
Working
Yeah,
at the
you'd
same
have to have
time.
two screens.
All right, and then I guess then finally, for the record then, you're saying that it is available on YouTube if somebody, on the YouTube option, if somebody wanted to watch
Right
it there?
now.
Right, and I believe that's, the channel, the YouTube channel is on our agenda as well. If you want
Yes,
to find
it
it,
is.
that's where to look.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Commissioner Spillichak.
Do we have an applicant representative present now? Has the applicant joined us?
So that's the thing, the gentleman who was gonna be providing the presentation is not showing anywhere on my attendee list.
Okay,
I did promote the other gentleman who spoke up, Glenn Armstrong, the panelist, so that he could speak, but I do not see Michael Borden on this list, so.
then, Mr. Chairman, I would suggest that we suspend this slideshow then, and we can go directly to questions.
Sounds good to me. We'll suspend the slideshow, or excuse me, the applicant's presentation, and move on. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Olander?
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner
Thank you.
Spillichak.
And Julie or Trevor, if you could just give me a little bit better help in understanding setbacks, because this isn't the first time we've seen multiple requests for zero setback. And this is very unique. So if you could just help me understand it a little better.
Yes, absolutely. What you find in Article 406 of the Washoe County Development Code are a series of standard setbacks based on the regulatory zone. In this case, the regulatory zone is industrial. And the standard setbacks are essentially what you have is a piece of land, a parcel of land, and in order to build on that land, you want to meet all of those setbacks. I believe they're 15-foot front, 10 rear, something like that. In this instance, however, the construction of the building has already taken place. Those setbacks have already been met and established. They've met all of the required setbacks from existing public right-of-way, from existing adjacent property lines. The proposal here is simply to allow a setback reduction for the individual units, so they don't have to be set back a certain distance from the internal drive aisles or from the adjacent units. Correct me if I got that wrong, Julie, is that, okay. Does that help clarify?
A little bit. So, okay. So we're doing a subdivision for storage units.
This is a unique request, unique to Washoe County, not unique to the country. In fact, this is a fairly common practice throughout the country, but we just have not had the proper tools in place to allow this. If you remember a few months back, in fact, Julie brought forward a code amendment to allow for this type of subdivision for a commercial or industrial type use, so that we could condominiumize these types of units and be consistent with other jurisdictions around the nation.
Thank you.
Do we have any more questions of staff? Commissioner Bruce?
Yes, I just had a question that the statement about they're all over the country, are there any others in the state of Nevada at this time that you are aware of?
I wish the applicant were on the phone. I'm not aware of any within the state of Nevada.
Well, one of the reasons that I ask is that the applicant, or at least some of the applicants are from Las Vegas, and I suspected that there may be some in Las Vegas, or in Clark County. And it would be interesting to know how that has worked out, since I have an issue, given the current COVID pandemic, that who's responsible for enforcing the stay away?
That is not of our concern. Our concern tonight is,
It's
Oh, if
part of the
if I may,
safety consideration.
these are not to be occupied. You cannot live in these units. You cannot
Understand
stay
that.
in the night over. There's some strong enforcement language, I believe, in the conditions that would prohibit any occupancy of these units. So they're simply for storage.
Okay, well, it says they have air conditioning and water.
so,
Well, that's two of the three things, and presumably there's lights, so there's electricity. I'm just asking. I find it an interesting concept, and a very interesting in that it may present a lot of problems. That's all.
are there any other further, is your, well,
I'm
obviously.
done.
Okay, that's what I want to know. You're through.
That's what I thought you wanted to know.
Are there anybody else got any questions? Okay, do we have any public comment?
We have no request for public comment.
Seeing as no public comment, and we've already asked questions of the staff, I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for discussion. Is there any discussion? Seeing there's no discussion, I guess I would call for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion. I move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report, information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Planning Commission approve, with the conditions included as Exhibit A to this matter, tentative subdivision map case number WTM 19-005 for Luxlocker LLC, having made all 10 findings in accordance with Washoe County Code, Section 110.608.25.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Doncheck and a second by Commissioner Savilicek.
Mr. Chair, Nate, real quick, I got a question for you. I'm trying to follow along with your discussion and the meeting, and I keep getting pop-ups. I'm not sure what the structure is for the comments or whatever that I'm getting on the chat feature down below, but I did just see a question asking about what if there are any comments that were left on voicemail, and then how those get handled if there were any.
We had no voicemail or emails to 311. We had no comments for this item.
Okay, thank you. When you get to an item that does have voicemail, how does that work?
We play the voicemail, and if we have 311 emails, I read them.
Okay. So, and then just again, to put it on the record, there's no voicemails and no emails and no other public comment reflected or showing for this item?
Correct. And I will
Thank you.
say that next time. Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. Does that satisfy you, Nate?
Yes, I'm just trying to make sure that all the bases are covered here.
Yeah, I get you, yeah. Okay, then I'm
Thank
going to
you.
call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Okay, we have
5 to 1.
five to one. Motion passes. Okay, we're going to move on to item 7B, abandonment case number WAB 20-001, Ingenuity Industrial Center.
Okay. This is an abandonment for possible action, hearing, and discussion to approve the abandonment of a 56-foot by 540.5-foot portion of the right-of-way of the northwestern terminus of Ingenuity Avenue in favor of an access easement and a right-of-way turnaround at the southwestern corner between APN 538-01011 and 538-16112. If approved, the abandoned portion of the right-of-way would become the property of the Ingenuity Industrial Center. And representing Washoe County in this matter is Staff Planner Dan Kalan.
Okay, excuse me, Dan. Any disclosures by commissioners, ethics or ex parte? Okay, Dan.
All right.
The floor is yours.
Dan Klon for the record. I have before you today WAB 20-0001 for Ingenuity Industrial Center, just down the road from the last one. So the applicant is requesting to abandon a 56-foot by 540.5-foot portion of the right-of-way at the northwestern terminus of Ingenuity Avenue in favor of an access easement and a right-of-way turnaround at the southwestern corner of the parcel. This property has an industrial regulatory zone. So as you can see here, it's the big area that it's just north of that big white building. That's the parcel we're talking about. So what we're talking about is we're taking this section of the Ingenuity Avenue and abandoning it, which is that yellow on the right-hand side of the graphic, in favor of that little access bulb there. What we're doing is we're going to replace this right-of-way with a access easement with a concurrent parcel map, which is going to go before the Parcel Map Review Committee next week. Notice was sent to 7 affected property owners adjacent to the proposed abandonment. We went to the Spanish Springs CAB meeting on March 4th, 2020. Noted that access would be replaced as part of the Parcel Map Review Committee process, and the CAB voted unanimously in favor of the abandonment. Therefore, staff is able to make all 3 of the abandonment findings and recommends approval of the requested abandonment with the conditions included in the staff report. I have provided a motion for you if at your convenience. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Do we have an applicant's presentation?
I believe the applicant is Glenn Armstrong, but he does not have a presentation, but he sounds like he is available for questions. Is he still there?
Okay. No applicants. Do we have any public comment?
We have no email or voicemail public comment.
Thank you. Then I'll bring it back to the commission. Does the commission have any questions of staff? The applicant? Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Bring it back to the commission for any possible discussion. Is there any discussion on the issue? Seeing none, I could call for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion. I move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Planning Commission approve, with the conditions included as Exhibit A in the staff report, abandonment case number WAB 20-0001 for Ingenuity Industrial Center, having made all 3 findings in accordance with Washoe County Code Section 110.806.20.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Doncheck and a second by Commissioner Civilacek. Any discussion on the motion? Being none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Passes unanimously. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item C. Regulatory Zone Amendment, case number WRZA 20-004, Village Parkway Rezone.
Okay, for a possible action, hearing, and discussion to approve a change of regulatory zoning of 47.19 acres I'll read all three. 20.04 acres on APN 087-423, 15.67 acres on APN 087-424, 11.46 acres on APN 087-411. From medium-density suburban, MDS, 3 dwelling units per acre, to high-density suburban, which is HDS, 7 dwelling units per acre, on 3 parcels totaling 124.6 acres. The remaining acreage will remain general rural. And if approved, authorize the chair to sign the resolution to the effect. Once again, representing Washoe County is Staff Planner Dan Kalan.
Do we have
Mr.
any?
Chair, before the presentation, I'm seeing a lot of questions down on the chat feature. People are concerned that their public comment will be heard on this item. I just want you to, if you can, put on the record that you're going to take public comment via Zoom. And also, from the clerk side, that voicemails that were left are going to be played, as well as emails that were sent in. Just so people are aware that that's going to happen at the conclusion of the staff and applicant presentations here.
Yeah, that's when we normally
Yes,
do public
we
comment.
have both 311 emails, and we also have voicemails that we will play and read when the presentations are complete.
We're not at public comment yet, though, okay?
Right, thanks. I'm only bringing that up because the people are concerned. I'm seeing in the chat feature. I just wanted to sort of have you let everybody know that public comment is going to be heard on this.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any disclosures by commissioners, ethics or expertise? Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing. And Dan, floor is yours again.
Dan Kalan, again for the record. I have before you right now WRZA 20-0004 for Village Parkway Rezone. So the applicant is requesting to change the regulatory zoning from medium-density suburban to high-density suburban on approximately 47.19 acres across 3 parcels totaling 124.6 acres. What this looks like is this map. We have all the green area, which is the general rural, which is not changing. We have the light pink area, which is the MDS, changing to the high-density suburban, which is the dark orange. So a little bit of background on this. Washoe County is currently experiencing an affordable housing supply shortage. We updated the Truckee Meadows Regional Plan last October, and the state engineer implemented a moratorium on developments that rely upon groundwater from the Cold Springs Valley effective of December 20th, 2019. Just a note, this does not bar development with water imported from outside of Cold Springs. So we'll start with the most basic of analysis for the setbacks. The proposed amendment changes what was an 8-foot side yard setback for MDS to a 5-foot setback. Otherwise, they have the same setbacks as for front and rear as MDS zoning, as it is in high-density suburban. Moving on to the allowed uses. Broadly speaking, MDS and HDS are very similar in terms of use types. I do want to make a point of clarification here that multifamily or apartments are not allowed in either medium-density suburban or high-density suburban regulatory zones. I'd also like to make a note that attached housing or townhomes is allowed in both MDS and HDS. So I'm just making that point very clear. So moving on into density. The current master plan has, under the land use and transportation element, policy 3.3, requires that single-family detached residential development be limited to a maximum of 5 dwelling units per acre. As you can see in the graphic below, high-density suburban has a density limit of 7 dwelling units per acre for single-family detached housing. It is 9 dwelling units per acre for single-family attached housing. And what that translates to in terms of maximum developable lots are 330 lots for single-family detached and 424 lots for single-family attached, or 189 units in addition to what is currently zoned. Staff has determined that high-density suburban is allowed, but it is effectively capped at 5 detached units per acre and 9 attached dwelling units per acre in conformance with this land use and transportation element policy. However, Washoe County cannot impose conditions upon regulatory zone amendments. Therefore, this policy shall be enforced upon review of future tentative subdivision maps or maps. Moving on to the compatibility, the proposed change is highly compatible with the neighboring medium-density suburban zoning. High-density and medium-density suburban are very compatible, and likewise, it is equally compatible with the general rural zoning, which is the rest of the parcels. Equally so with MDS, which is what it had before, which is medium. Now moving on to the facility analysis. So there are potential traffic impacts. RTC and NDOT may require a traffic study at the tentative map stage, and Washoe County will require a traffic study at the tentative map stage. Water will be provided by Great Basin Water Company, and the applicant provided an intent to serve letter with water rights from outside of Cold Springs, which is in compliance with the moratorium. There is community sewer available in the surrounding properties. The Cold Springs sewer facility has an average daily flow of 0.371 MGD. Therefore, there is 0.316 MGD capacity at the sewage treatment plant there. There are currently adequate recreational facilities. However, the Parks Department has some concerns over the proximity of increased density to the wildland-urban interface. Law enforcement and fire protection had no comment on this application, and there are potential for future capacity issues with the school district, as you can see below in the table, where we're currently over capacity, then within capacity, and then again over capacity over the next 10 years. Moving on to the pattern of growth, the regional plan caps the maximum density allowed within the master plan category in this area. This area is within a tier 3 zone. Therefore, high density suburban is within that residential master plan category and is allowed. So the density would be allowed under the current regional plan. Likewise, high density suburban is allowed within the Cold Springs area plan. Therefore, the proposed regulatory zone amendment conforms to the pattern of growth outlined in the regional and master plans. And lastly, we're going to talk about development suitability. The proposed amendment is in an area that is not in a flood zone and is also not on steep slopes, as you can see on the maps here, where the orange and blue areas are flood zones and the large number of brown lines equates to steep slopes. So notice was sent to 219 affected property owners within 750 feet from the site. However, the CAB meeting was, instead of going to CAB, the proposed amendment was sent to the North Valley CAB for comment instead of being heard at the regularly scheduled CAB meeting due to the governor's stay-at-home directive in response to COVID-19. We did not receive any feedback on this application from the CAB. However, we've received lots of feedback from the public on this. We've provided some written comment for you on the dais, as well as a number of things that will be read out as part of the 311 program. Mostly the public has brought up issues concerning transportation infrastructure, traffic into and within Cold Springs, and limited access to amenities. However, staff is able to make all 7 of the regulatory zone amendment findings, and therefore recommends that the Planning Commission approve the requested amendment. I have provided a motion for your convenience. I'm available if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Is there a applicant presentation?
I believe Mike Rayleigh's on the line.
Good evening. For the record, Mike Rayleigh with Christie Corporation here representing Lifestyle Homes. I do have a PowerPoint, and if you can just let me know when that comes up on the screen, I'll walk you through that slide by slide.
Okay.
Your slide is up, your presentation is up now.
Great. So if we can go to the second slide, I think Dan did a great job giving you an overview and did a nice job with a thorough staff report. We are requesting that 47.19 acres be rezoned from medium density suburban to high density suburban, which would essentially allow for an increase of 189 additional units at a maximum density at the site. Next slide, please. This kind of gives you a view of the existing conditions. And as you'll see, these pictures are taken essentially along the Village Parkway frontage. And you can see that hillside area that Dan referred to during his staff report. And if we can go to the next slide, you'll see that we're not proposing any changes on those steeper portions of the site. So we're only proposing to rezone the areas that are flat. The existing master plan land use is not proposed to change. If we can go to the next slide. And you'll see that the zoning that we're requesting essentially mimics the master plan designation, where the the high density suburban is proposed down along Mud Springs Road as well as Village Parkway, and the hillsides will remain untouched. Next slide, please. It was brought to our attention recently that there's been some misinformation and rumors that were being spread on Facebook. I think when people hear the term high density suburban, they automatically think the worst. I'd like to remind you that there's a high density rural category as well that's very low intensity. I think what was misconstrued is that somehow we were asking for high density urban. There was some rumors circulating that we're proposing 1,880 units. That's simply not the case. As Dan mentioned, this would not allow for more than 424 units at the project site. I cannot stress enough that no apartments are proposed. HDS allows for single family residential, not multifamily. In fact, apartments are not even a permitted use within the HDS zone. And once again, we are not proposing to develop any ridge lines or hillsides in the future. Based on the zoning patterns that we're proposing, that would not be possible. There is also concerns raised on Facebook related to lack of fire service in the area. And I would like to point out that this site is less than half a mile from the existing Cold Springs fire station, which is a manned fire station. Next slide, please. Some zoning considerations is really the Cold Springs area plan has not been updated in nearly 10 years. And if you look at the land uses that were in the Cold Springs area plan, they're nearing build out. There's still a strong demand for housing, even during the COVID crisis. Not only lifestyle homes, but other builders in the region have not seen a drop in demand for housing. There's been very few cancellations of escrows, and the market is still going strong from a real estate perspective. This site has proximity to regional employment centers that are developing in the North Valleys. Once again, Woodland Village, which is another lifestyle project, which is essentially adjoins this site, is nearing full build out. And there is still additional demand for new homes in the area. In terms of infrastructure needed to serve the site is essentially at its front door. Water, sewer, power, everything is right there. So there's strong infrastructure availability. If you look at the zoning patterns in Cold Springs, essentially everything is zoned to MDS. There's very little diversity. This would allow for some single family uses on smaller lots that would kind of serve to diversify the overall market within Cold Springs without bringing that multifamily component to the area. And actually, if you look at what Lifestyle Homes has done, all of Woodland Village was developed as a common open space development. So the majority of lots are well below third acre in there. In fact, there's, I think if you did an average, they're probably more on the range of 8,000 to 9,000 square feet, with some even smaller than that. Next slide, please. I know this matrix was included in the staff report, but I think it's a powerful exhibit. If you look at the little red circles there, it shows that the land use compatibility that we're proposing has the highest level of compatibility for the HDS to MDS interface, and the interface to the general rural, which will essentially become open space, remains the same. So we're not proposing anything that would lower the compatibility per the development code for the site. Next slide, please. In terms of land use considerations, I touched on it briefly before, but infrastructure needed to serve the project is in place, and there's ample capacity to serve the project. The Washoe County School District has indicated no concerns related to school capacities. We did consult with Mike Boster at the school district, who informed us that the planned Cold Springs High School is planned to come online. It's expected in 2024, which would actually free up the capacity. The slide that was presented in the staff report showed North Valley's high school at 104%. We anticipate by the time anything is ever really up and out of the ground on this site, that capacity will be greatly increased with the new Cold Springs High School. The proposed zoning is consistent with the regulation goals and policies of the Cold Springs Area Plan. HDS, which is being requested, is specifically an allowed zoning designation within the suburban residential master plan designation that exists today. And it's consistent with the permitted uses within the Cold Springs suburban character management area. And once again, no change in zoning is proposed on hillsides. Next slide, please. In terms of the area plan considerations, the area plan vision says, quote, a balanced and diverse community that offers a range of lifestyles. I think if you look at what's out there right now, essentially all of Cold Springs is zoned MDS for residential uses, new residential uses, that is. So there really is a lack of diversity to support that area plan vision. Moving on to the area plan objectives, the objectives themselves call for a range of housing opportunities and densities. That simply does not exist now. So this request would allow for diversification of those densities and help meet that area plan objective. Policy CS 1.1.1 allows for all regulatory zones, including the HDS, within the suburban character management area in which we are located. Policy CS 1.1.13 requires densities greater than 5 per acre be located within the SCMA, so we're meeting that requirement. And lastly, policy CS 11.2 requires that water resource commitments for all new amendments be provided. We did submit a will serve letter from Great Basin Water Company stating that they are willing to serve any future project that comes forward at the tentative map stage. Next slide, please. As Dan mentioned, a future project will be reviewed through the tentative map process. This zone change does not grant the right to construct new homes. No project is being proposed at this time. This is simply a zone change. Future development of the site will include a public review process similar to this, including a meeting with the CAB and a public hearing before the Planning Commission. At that time, conditions can be added to address any specific concerns related to buffers, building heights, et cetera. Although as Dan pointed out in his staff report, the development standards for high density suburban in terms of setbacks and building heights are essentially identical to that of what exists today. Next slide, please. I'd like just to touch briefly on the findings. I think Dan did a nice job in the staff report of reviewing those. The first is the master plan consistency. Once again, HDS is specifically allowed and is consistent with the existing suburban master plan designation as well as the policies of the area plan. Number two, land use compatibility. As the matrix that was presented previously showed, HDS has the highest compatibility rating with the surrounding land uses that are developed. So we believe that that finding can be met. Finding three, response to changes and conditions. Once again, the area plan has not been updated in nearly a decade and does not reflect the changes that have been created due to recent infrastructure improvements, the tremendous employment growth, the housing demands that exist today, I think are definitely major changes that have occurred in the last decade. Finding number four, availability of facilities. Once again, all infrastructure needed to serve this project is in place today with capacity. Five, no adverse effects. This request can serve to implement the goals and policies of the area plan while ensuring proper relationships and compatibility with existing uses. I would like to touch just briefly on a point that Dan made in his staff report regarding the Parks Department concern related to wildland urban interface. And I think in speaking with the Parks Department and some of the residents out there, what I think the biggest concern is the access to the public lands and the recreational opportunities to the west. If you've had a chance to visit the site, you'll see that there's really a lot of kind of environmental damage that's been done by people going in and out and crossing the property. What can be done with a future tentative map, and I think fully addresses the Parks Department, is we can look at defining how that access is achieved and providing access in specific locations that actually preserves the area while still maintaining the access for the public lands. And that's something that can be conditioned with a future tentative map. So I think if anything, that situation is going to get better and fully address the concerns raised by the Parks Department. And lastly, the desired pattern of growth. Once again, this request conforms to the suburban character management area included in the Cold Springs area plan, is an allowed zoning designation within the character management area, and has the highest compatibility rating assigned by the county. Next slide. So with that, I'll wrap up my presentation. I'm available for comments and will be available on Zoom should you have any additional questions or concerns after hearing public comment. But with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have now.
Thanks, Mike. Are there any questions of the applicant at this time?
Chair Chesney, I have a question.
Commissioner Nelson?
In your presentation, you were saying that there's adequate infrastructure in place. Under the sewer capacity, do you know how much of that available capacity would be utilized by the proposed development?
I do not have the exact numbers, but we have met with county staff and we've run the numbers ourselves. And it's not as if we're taking up every last drop of capacity. There is more than ample capacity to serve additional projects beyond what we're proposing as well.
So for a sewer treatment plant, I think once they get to about 80% capacity, they're required to start looking at expansions. That's why, I mean, they're at have 50% capacity. That's why I was asking the question, just to see how close it would be getting them to the 80%.
Sure, and I will say that Lifestyle Homes actually was the number one participant in construction of that sewer plant, and knowing that everything that was coming online, there was definitely some buffer, for lack of a better term, built into that in terms of the capacity. So, and I know in talking with the county engineer, he did not raise any significant concerns related to sewer capacity at the Cold Springs plant.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the applicant?
Of staff.
Or is Dan at this point? Okay,
I do have questions of staff, yes.
okay. Commissioner Volacek.
Thank you. So in terms of when you referred to the 2019 regional plan, this project is in Tier 3, which means that Tier 1 and Tier 2 need to be built out before Tier 3 can be accessed.
Dan Kalon, for the record, that is not how the regional plan is written. The regional plan is prioritizing density based on the tier. So Tier 1 and mixed use have in excess of 30 dwelling units allowed per acre, I believe actually all the way down to Tier 2. Tier 3 is just limiting the density to what is existing. So Tier 3's density in this particular case would be suburban residential, which would be at the highest end, which would be high density suburban. So 7 detached dwelling units per acre and 9 detached.
If I may.
Go, no problem.
Regional land designations. As a way for further refining the regional form and prioritizing areas for development, the regional plan established regional land designations, including mixed-use core, Tier 1 land, Tier 2 land, Tier 3 land, and the rural area. The regional plan prioritizes development in that order.
That is correct.
Mixed use, Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3.
That is correct. However, the prioritization of development is not driven by how applications come in.
There has to be justification prior to submitting a plan in a Tier 2 or a Tier 3 designation that you're hopscotching over those other areas.
That is not my reading of the regional plan.
If I can jump in, and I appreciate the comments from our representative from the Regional Planning Commission. I know she spent a lot of time with that plan. However, such a request falls within the Tier 3 designation because this is not a request to change from a Tier 3 and move into a Tier 2. It's still under the suburban residential designation. In fact, because it's a regulatory zone amendment, this would not even be reviewed through regional planning.
Not yet.
It wouldn't, right, it would not be heard by regional planning staff.
But tentative map, it would.
Only if it triggers a project of
Yes.
regional significance, right.
And in terms of, with representation and respect to the area plan, Cold Springs area plan, in your reference to statements out of the area plan, in terms of the vision statement is respect of the rural heritage, open space and recreation opportunities, and growth kept in balance with natural resources and infrastructure. So you refer to some parts of the area plan, but not all parts of the area plan. And the first and foremost is that vision statement to preserve the character of that area. You also refer to the closest fire station being a half a mile away from this development. Is that fire station a City of Reno Fire Department station or a Truckee Meadows Regional Fire Protection District station?
I believe that is a Truckee Meadows Regional Fire Protection District station. They had no comments on the proposed regulatory zone amendment.
Okay.
I pushed them on that.
I'm confused about the designation. I believe it is a career station from City of Reno Fire Department that is there, not a Truckee Meadows.
I'm not sure one way or the other for a fact.
If we could move on to another question, we can look into that question
you.
and then respond.
Thank you. I am quite finished.
Dan, I do have a question.
Thank you, sir.
You were talking about the Parks and Open Spaces program, and they felt most of the issues were access. And yet, in the document here, they're not talking about access. They're talking about the proximity to public lands that provide year-round habitat for pronghorn antelope, sage grouse, and provide critical winter mule deer habitat. And they feel that this is in violation and conflict with Open Space Natural Resource Management Plan Goal 6.1, which they say strongly discourage high-density development near open space areas and consider the downward transitioning of densities next to or near open spaces in order to minimize resource pressure, fire danger, and other net. The current proposal is in conflict with these policies as it would encourage high-density development near an open space area that provides important habitat. So how can it go from access concerns to actual habitat concerns from them?
My staff report didn't make any note of access concerns. I mentioned that they had issues in proximity to the urban wildlife interface.
Then I'm sorry, I apologize, it should have been a question to the applicant, because the applicant said it was access concerns. And I'm looking at this, and I'm thinking, to me, this is a very important conflict to even move forward with. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, would you care for me to address that?
Sure, go ahead.
So I think if you look, first of all, I wouldn't consider this high-density development. I think this is compatible with what's out there now. And if you look at the property, it's zoned now for development. What needs to be done is with that urban wildland interface and wildlife is that's really comes, to be honest with you, at the next step with the tentative map is conditioning the tentative map to make sure that access to those areas is preserved, that buffers in terms of fire breaks and those sorts of things are maintained. And I believe that was the intent of their comments, but I think it's very important to realize that this property has been long slated for development, and we are not proposing to extend that development boundary any further than what exists today. And I think that those are all concerns that would and will be addressed with the future tentative map, kind of through the standard process.
Is everybody good with that? Okay, Mike, I got a question for you. As I look at the layout of this thing, you're using the total acreage of the 3 parcels, but you're showing the development area right down on the flat land. I walked the property. I spent an hour and a half out there last week. And to the, I guess it would be the west of the property beyond the developable area, it's mostly hillside. It's rather steep grades. I don't know what the percentage is or not. So if this rezone goes, then you're really not putting it on the total acreage. You're gonna condense that stuff right down in the flat land that's developable. So it's really, if you do the real math, it's not really gonna end up 5 to the acre when you start cramming the allowable use down into the smaller area. Am I correct in that?
No, that's incorrect. We are not requesting any kind of a density transfer off of the general rural portion of the property. We're only looking at the 47 acres, down below. So we're not proposing any sort of a density transfer with this zone change.
Okay, so the 47 developable acres, though.
So the way to look at it is right now, that property, that 47 acres is zoned MDS, which would yield, 47 times 3. That's what that area yields. We're proposing to rezone that to high density suburban, which would essentially be 47 times, under the current policy, 47 times 5, or 47 times 9 if it was an attached product.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else got any further questions for the applicant? If not, I am going to open the public hearing. Or, excuse me, the public comment. Do we have public comment?
Yes, we have public comment.
Thank you. Lost in thought. And if I could, and I don't know where I wrote it down there, I did. If I could just make a general statement about public comment, because we've received a large number of both emails and voicemail messages, and not all of them do we have a name associated with those. So if your comments have been, if after we've read your comments that you've provided us through Washoe 311 or through voicemail, if they've been played in the chambers, and you're still out on Zoom and have the ability to raise your hand and comment, we ask that you do your best not to exceed the allowable 3 minutes, and please do not repeat what you've already said in your comments. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Nate Edwards.
Yes, Mr. Edwards.
Yes, they're in the chambers. They need to be running the timer on them as well. The way the county commission's been doing this is they've been running the timer just like they would if everybody was in the commission chambers. So when they raise their hand and speak, they've been running the timer for the 3 minutes. If they play a voicemail, they're playing the voicemail and then starting the 3-minute timer. And then they stop it at the 3 minutes. And then if they're reading emails, they're similarly starting the timer, reading the email until they get to 3 minutes, and then whatever's left, they're just entering that into the record. So that's how they've been handling it at the county commission, and I would recommend you do the same thing here.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Edwards. So, let's get on with the voicemails and the emails and.
All right, first we have Nikki Weaver. Via Zoom.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm Nick Weaver. I'm just wondering what you guys really think about doing with, like, seriously, the fire protection district of this whole area with one actual ALS fire engine and not even an ambulance company out in this area. To how are you going to support that many people with the road coming in, the road coming out with car crashes, And just not even imagining the people have medical aids. This place already gets pretty overwhelmed with one medical aid. It takes another 20 to 30 minutes for another person from ALS ambulance to come out here to support that. Are you hoping to increase the staffing at the fire station? I don't really know what your plan is. Yes?
Are you asking a question? This is not a discussion. You can make your public comment and,
I'm asking if you plan on funding the staffing of more fire stations and what your plan is to do with the fire protection district out here.
Sir, this is not a time to be asking questions of the Planning Commission. It's your time to provide public comment.
Okay, well, I don't think you're gonna have enough staffing, and I think that there needs to be more public safety out here before you start adding more homes. Thank you for your time.
thank you. Next.
Next, we have Kristen Wright via Zoom.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so my name's Kristen Wright. I was born and raised in Cold Springs. I have been out here for 33 years, so I have seen this valley be completely ruined, little by little. I currently live on Georgetown Drive, which is directly across. My back fence would back up to these homes. So I'm very against this. My mother's house would also back up to these homes, so I'm very against this. I already have 50 to 60 cars per hour on my street from Georgetown to go to Family Dollar, 7-Eleven. Most of them speed about 50 miles an hour. We have had 4 homes hit. We've had 4 cars hit. We've had 3 fences run into. My children can't even play on the street. We have asked for help from the county. They will not help us. We've asked for help from Lifestyle Homes. They will not help us. So now you're talking about putting 400 more homes on my road to the point that I have to move my couch from my front living room because I'm waiting for a car to come through it. I'm very against this. We do not have the infrastructure to handle this. The freeway going into town already takes an hour for a morning commute because you guys won't extend the freeway only until Stead. That doesn't help us. One of the last big fires we had out here, we were all on the dirt road going over Anderson because there was no way to get out of this valley unless you were going over towards Susanville. This is not safe. It's not okay. They need to stop building in this valley. We also hunt in 021. Last time we were scouting, there were no deer, there were no antelope. Now you're adding more homes going out that way. It's not okay. It's just not okay. This needs to stop now. And that's my comment. I really hope you guys would actually think of us residents that have been out here in this valley, who love this valley and are sick of seeing it ruined. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Next, we have Dayla Gibson. Oh, sorry.
We're done here, so.
Oh, okay. All right, that's all of the comments we have by Zoom. So I will start the 311 email comments. Don't forget the timer. Okay, first we have James and Carmen Jones. Comments submitted via email for broadcast into the Commissioner Chambers during the March 5th, I think they probably meant May 5th, meeting, or transcribed for entry into the record. We are the Jones families, homeowners since 2001, living in the White Lake Ranch subdivision, and one of the property owners that will be impacted by this change. Our property bordered the undeveloped acres specified. This regulatory zone change request currently appears to have the approval of the Washoe County Planning Commission staff, and we disagree with your recommendation for approval. Specifically, as stated on page 15 of 17, number 2 and 3, this change will adversely affect our health, safety, and welfare. It will impact our quality of life in this rural setting and does not represent a more desirable utilization of land. We choose to live in Cold Springs area because of the dark night sky with minimum light pollution, mountain views, the smell of the sage, low traffic and noise, and active wildlife, all of which would be impacted by this amendment. In addition, as stated on page 8 of 17, change of conditions, The justification to increase this density of further development is to address the decrease of available housing in the region. However, the intent of the regional plan outlined the areas of desired growth is to focus development closer to the region's center, and the decrease of available high-density housing is being addressed with several developments now underway that are much closer to the region's center and already have many services in existence that we in Cold Springs do not. I agree with Washoe County Parks and Open Space Program, one of the agencies that responds to your request for comment. Please consider the recommendation as clearly detailed in Exhibit F. They consider this area to be located within the wildland-urban interface and do not support this amendment. Due to the impact to the wildlife residing in the area and proximity of the subject site, the importance of minimizing development is emphasized as identified in the conservation element of Washoe County's master plan. Additionally, an even stronger recommendation to consider a downward transition of densities is advised by them to minimize surface resource pressure, fire danger, and other negative impacts, not doubling the density as this zoning amendment proposes to allow. In addition, there are other issues that have not yet been addressed, as your staff acknowledges in this report. Why would this expansion be approved without? There's more on here. I will put it into the record. Okay. Next is from James Demistas. Please do not approve of any more building in the Cold Springs and Valley Parkway areas, especially high-density apartments, condos, townhouses. There is nowhere near enough infrastructure to support each building. Not enough water, roadways, grocery stores, services, auto, laundry, food, retail. No buses, no doctors, no urgent care, no medical, dental offices, and zero entertainment venues, i.e. movies, music, family, etc. Find somewhere else to put the low-income, high-density housing. Put it closer to existing infrastructure in Reno, like Midtown, or better yet, south of Reno. There's a lot more room on the other side of 395 if you absolutely have to in the North Valleys, White Lakes, and Village Parkway areas, all areas already far more traffic at peaks than they were designed for, especially Crystal Canyon Boulevard into White Lake. White Lake will surely be used to get there, as the closer exit will not handle all the volume. Thank you for listening and considering the views of the current residents. Next is from Susan Wheeler. Please accept this as my official complaint against building apartments in Woodland Village. We thought this was going to be a housing community. That's it. Next is Shannon Melrose. My name is Shannon Monticelli Melrose. I have lived in Cold Springs for 42 years, the same location. I have watched this valley grow and grow. The proposed location is in my backyard. I am completely against condos or high-density anything going into this area. There is so much traffic already and should be considered dangerous due to the fact when you try to cross off of Georgetown to Village Parkway, it's almost impossible to much traffic and going too fast. This would not be an area you put 3,000 or more cars a day. Not to mention the crime that would go up due to more people, the schools being overloaded again, and the fact that these kids out here already have nothing to do. The wildlife and access to the very little desert left out here, where our community enjoys hiking and exploring the little mountainside, would be demolished for overgrowth and money. What a shame. What about fires? What about the deer and antelope, all wildlife? And the water that comes off the mountain, where is it going to go? When you take the vegetation away, we are going to flood like Lemon Valley. Every morning it smells like sewage from the treatment plant. How much is enough? Our water is depleted, the traffic is horrendous, we are crowded already. We do not have condos or apartments. Very sad to watch overdevelopment. Why can't it be a swimming center, community center with access to the trails for the community? Please, let's not destroy the little we have left in Cold Springs community. Next is Diane Merrill. I am a homeowner in Woodland Village who lives approximately 4 blocks from the proposed rezoned parcel. I was very upset to see that the very developer who built the subdivision of single-family homes I live in is proposing to disrupt our neighborhood by requesting to build a high-density project immediately adjacent to Woodland Village. First of all, I understand that Reno needs more housing and probably more affordable housing as well, but this proposal is poorly located and does not offer anything to mitigate for increased traffic that will result from such a project. Simply because Lifestyle Home owns the parcel, perhaps the last one they own that is available to develop, does not warrant increasing the zoning to high density. It is surrounded by suburban homes with lower density, and it should be required to fit in with the existing community. The one benefit of living so far away from grocery stores, shopping centers, restaurants, etc., and having to drive quite a distance out of Reno to live is that we have a semi-rural, quiet environment. The proposed development will annihilate the uncrowded country feel. Additionally, if Lifestyle Homes thinks it's a good idea to build more affordable, high-density housing out here, Cold Springs has no public transportation, and this is typically needed for such housing. Since it is not a very large parcel, the units will be crammed into a small area, thus not allowing for much of a setback from the main road. I believe this will not fit into the area and will add to congestion, having residents' cars feed directly onto the 2-lane road. The parcel in question is located right on the main, mere 2-lane road that all Woodland Village homeowners used to leave home and return to it, Village Parkway. The idea that up to a 189-unit housing complex located directly on this road will not impact traffic enough to warrant upgrading to a 4-lane road is unacceptable. It is only at the point of development that planning commissioners can assess fees to the developer to mitigate the need for road infrastructure improvements and not have the taxpayers and homeowners of Cold Springs be left holding the bag to pay for such improvements when the development is built and the need comes obvious. My last comment is that in the past, I have been a news reporter covering County Planning Commission in California, and my experience has been that commissioners are more responsive to developers and their campaign contributions to the residents and taxpayers of the community they are supposed to serve. Please take into consideration the concerns of us, the people who live here and pay taxes, and give it more weight than simply enriching the developer. Lifestyle Homes can just as easily build another plot of medium-density homes, and while they will
Sorry,
not
your time's up.
make quite so much, it will retain the existing atmosphere that we choose to live in, that we enjoy and wish to preserve, and which the express intended purpose for the outset. Next, we have Danielle Rainier. Hello. As a resident that lives just off Village Parkway, I do not feel that this should be rezoned. We do not have the infrastructure to facilitate the amount of people this will bring in. We are a rural community and have chosen to live out here because of this. We do not have the schools, stores, gas stations, waters, or roadways to support what is being asked for. It will not be a simple flip of a switch to accommodate this request. Our lives will be impacted by this in so many ways, from major construction to try and rebuild a road that wasn't meant to hold this kind of traffic, to restructuring our water that may not be able to handle this increase of people using it in drought conditions. Not to mention the overcrowding of schools we just got permission to have built. We will be back to square one. Please think long and hard about this. Sincerely, concerned resident of Cold Springs. The next one is by Melissa Payette. With respect to the above referenced matter, as the North Valley's resident, I vehemently oppose more residential building, which will further negatively impact commutes on US 395 southbound and northbound. No one has stepped up to deal with the atrocious traffic snarls and commute times from the North Valleys on the US 395, nor will they. However, the addition of thousands more vehicles commuting on the same only route will further negatively impact these roads, rendering the highway impassable during peak hours. I understand that the RTC has an agenda that will address these issues several years from now, but the problem is occurring now and will only get worse if the residential developers aren't required to take part in the payment towards the widening of the highways to increase the throughput of these roadways. Right now, minus the reduced traffic due to COVID-19 stay-at-home orders, a peak hour commute from the North Valleys can take up to an hour and a half because a single person wrecks somewhere between Lemon Valley and Audie, which happens pretty much daily. This isn't improving and isn't going to improve until developers are forced to take part in the solution. Again, I vehemently oppose any additional residential building anywhere in the North Valleys, whether it's Cold Springs or anywhere else, until the biggest problem in the valley have a solution that's actively being worked on. Okay, and the last email is by Janet Perozzi. From medium to high density, I am against this proposal. Seriously, you really think this is a good idea? The new homes and apartments between Lemon Valley and Stead are causing all kinds of havoc as it is. How can you justify adding more homes and higher density? The traffic is horrendous. The exit off Lemon Valley slows traffic down because the exit cannot accommodate all the cars getting off the freeway. Additionally, at Golden Valley, the lanes go from 3 to 2. This causes a slowdown to about 10 miles an hour during rush hour traffic. I don't understand how we can even consider high-density development, especially in the North Valleys. We do not have any entertainment up here. We must go into town for a nice dinner, movie, bowling, dancing, etc. The freeway is backed up almost all the time. Please do not approve this change. Our infrastructure cannot accommodate it. Okay, that's all of the emails that we received, and then we have some voicemails, which I will play here in a moment.
My name's Salome Defford, and I'm calling about case number WRZA 20-0004, and I think it's ridiculous what you guys want to do. Where are we going to get the water from out here? And why would you want to bring a Section 42 apartment, which I'm pretty sure that's what the board would want to do? It just brings more riffraff out here. I didn't want riffraff. If I wanted riffraff, I would have bought a home in Golden Valley, Lemon Valley, Stead. But I didn't. I chose it out here because it was quiet. You bring all those kids from all those towns into our middle schools, and all they do is bully. Bully, bully, bully. We have no stores out here. We have, in the stores that we have out here, Family Dollar barely has enough for us. Why can't you build them somewhere else? Because you're greedy, that's why.
This is for the Planning Commission. I'm calling in regards to case number WRZA 20-0004 Village Parkway rezone in Cold Springs. I am opposed. There is nothing but single-family dwellings in Cold Springs, and there is not any public transportation in Cold Springs. Putting any kind of apartments in Cold Springs is a total mistake, and they would not be valuable and decrease our value in our homes in Cold Springs. My name is Shelley Thompson. My phone number is 775-843-6734, and I live in Cold Springs.
So I believe what I'm calling in about is Village Parkway rezone, case number WRZA 20-0004. I don't agree with you wanting to build apartments in my neighborhood where I own a home. It's bullshit.
Hi, my name is Raymond Melrose. I'm responding to the Washoe County Planning Commission. It's for a regulatory zone amendment, case number WRZA 20-0004 for Village Parkway rezone. I live within a few hundred feet of the property that they're looking to develop on. We just are now getting our schools built to where we can handle the capacity we already have out here in the valley. And this would greatly overload that scenario. And the roads going to it, which we use regularly, would be congested with all kinds of traffic that our road systems aren't built for. Obviously, the water is another scenario. I do think that it's going to bring down my personal property value by entering those kind of super divisions into this community. And I'm not looking to lose my investment. I am definitely objecting to the plan, and I'll be following this closely. Thank you.
This is for the Planning Commission on the Village Parkway rezone. I think the number is WRZA 20-0004. I am a resident out here. The new apartments that you want to put up are in my backyard practically. I have lived here for over 40 years, and it used to be nothing back there except mountain. Now they've already regot the Village Parkway back, the Village Parkway Road, which sounds like a freeway in my back window as it is when I'm trying to sleep in Elsewell. It's terrible. We do not need more traffic. We do not need more buildings, and it's getting bad enough out here. The traffic is terrible, and the noise is terrible, and I just am completely against it. Thank you.
Hi, Deloitte Egbert Palmer, Planning Commission regarding case number WRZA 20-004, Village Parkway rezone. I am totally against putting in apartments. It is way too close to many of these homes. It's going to be right almost across the street from me in my backyard. I am against this. They can rezone to put in patio homes or townhomes. No apartments. Brings crime. I will not feel safe. Many of my neighbors said they are going to move if this happens. Thank you. My number is 775-720-3341.
Hello, my name is Tracy. I am a neighbor of the Cold Springs community, so I am calling about case William Ralph Zip Apple 20-0004 about the apartments being built in Cold Spring. I just wanted to say that it is too congested out here as it is, especially in the morning. And we really don't need any more unless they plan on widening the freeway and giving us more amenities out here like stores and et cetera. I'm begging you, please do not allow this to move forward. It's bringing crime out to our community, and we've lived here a long time. And I just hope you consider what the people want more than the mighty dollar. Thank you.
Yes, this is case number WRZA 20-0004, the Village Parkway rezoning in Cold Springs. Just want to express my opposition to that. We like it out here the way it is. We like the lower population density. We don't feel like apartments and that density belong out here. That's my opinion. Kirby Keller, 722-1498. Thank you. Bye.
Hello, this is Dayla Gibson, and I am calling as a resident of Cold Springs about for the Washoe Planning Commission meeting happening this evening. And it's regarding Lifestyle Homes' request to change the zoning. And I'm calling after 11. I'm working, so it's very difficult to do this at a distance. So I'm calling because I am against this. The argument that was made on the application saying that, people are looking for affordable housing and they want to, have it, putting these houses in one of the smallest corners of the furthest valley from Reno is ridiculous. We don't have infrastructure such as buses. I don't think people want them. We don't have good access for police. We don't have good access for ambulance. And to reduce the density of the properties is irresponsible. We already have thousands of homes going in across the lake, and so that's going to be devastating to our valley already, adding thousands and thousands of more vehicles. 395 South is already a parking lot from Stead back, and there's also thousands and thousands of units going out instead. So that's where the high density living spaces need to be, is out further. They don't need to be in this small back corner of a valley. I really think it'd be detrimental to us. We would have increased light pollution, increased crime, increased noise. I know that people don't think that that's important, but it is to those of us who live out here. So please reject this proposal. It's ridiculous. Thank you.
Hello, this message is for the Washoe County Planning Commission. My name is Jared Reed, and my phone number is area code 775-470-9036. This is in regards to the Tuesday, May 5th, 2020 meeting at 6:30 p.m. of the Washoe County Commission chambers on the regulatory zone amendment case number WRZA 20-0004 Village Parkway rezone. This is regarding rezoning the area in Cold Springs from medium density suburban with 3 detached or 5 attached dwelling units per acre to high density suburban, 7 detached or 9 attached dwelling units per acre maximum. And I am one of the homeowners that my backyard overlooks this property, and I, as a big concern, am hoping that whatever change would not impede the wonderful view. I'm also concerned about how people will continue to access BLM. And then if we did this change, which I mean, at least right now I am not in favor of, and to cram more people, it sounds like, onto this not large property. My concern too is for, you know, what that would do to, you know, just the curve where they're coming in at is already pretty difficult to see around. So I'd be concerned about, you know, lots of cars or trucks coming in there and it being difficult to see and stop in time for those trucks or cars. So anyway, again, maybe concerns will be met tonight, as I hope to at least watch on YouTube. But otherwise, I would love to talk to someone about it. Again, generally, I am opposed to this change. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
That is all the video or the audio voicemail comments that we have received. We do have someone on Zoom who would like to make a comment. Matthew, what is his name? Matthew Martin. We did receive an email from him that has been posted on the county website, so if he would like to speak, he can do so.
Yes, I can. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes,
My name is
we can.
Matthew Martin. I'm a resident of Cold Lake, Cold Springs area, and I emailed a letter to washoe311@washoucounty.us last night, and I was disappointed that letter was not read into the record, but I have a copy of it in front of me. And if you would, I'm sure the timer is going. Our letter is opposition to the proposed zoning change on Village Parkway. My property is directly affected by this proposal. We purchased our property when we moved from White Pine County with the knowledge that the property adjacent to ours was zoned medium density. The proposed change to high density would negatively impact our property value. All new development should comply with the character and vision of the Cold Springs Valley. This proposed change to the zoning will force us to incur previously unanticipated expenses for additional trees and privacy landscaping to prevent the proposed new home's second and possibly third story residents from looking directly into our backyard and windows. This will also cause an increase in our water usage to maintain the additional vegetation. We feel that our privacy is being directly infringed upon, and our trust in the Planning Commission and the Cold Springs Valley Master Plan are being violated should the zoning change to high density be approved. We specifically chose to purchase a home in Cold Springs based on current zoning and the more rural-like appeal of the area. If we wanted to live next to 2 or 3 story residential units in a high density zoned area, then we would have purchased a property in a different location. Another area of large concern that needs to be addressed is emergency access and wildland fire mitigation and prevention. This area is accessible not only for residents, but for the fire departments as well. Peterson Mountain and the adjacent areas have had several fires over the years. The current open space allows for firefighters to build fire line by hand or bulldozers and conduct backburn operations to deprive the wildland fire of fuel before it reaches the existing houses. The residential housing east of Village Parkway is primarily manufactured homes or trailers that are not as fire resistant as stucco-sided stick-built homes with composition roofs. Should zoning change to high density, this would create a significant challenge to wildland firefighters. It will be much more difficult to build fire line on the steep hillside under emergency conditions versus the current flat open space. Wildland fire bulldozers are limited to the angle of hillside they can operate on under emergency conditions. Also, firefighter response times would be significantly impeded, and all surrounding structures would be placed at higher risk due to responding fire crews needing to work in a denser space directly against a hillside should the zoning change to high density. The current existing open and flat land allows better access to get a fire more quickly under control and provide adequate protection to the Cold Springs area. In other words, building high-density homes with the Cold Springs area and its residents at a more significant risk of property damage or loss should a wildland fire occur. What is the plan to ensure appropriate fire breaks and needed emergency access will continue should the high-density homes be built?
Your
We are
time is
strongly
up, sir.
opposed to the zoning change proposal and urge the Planning Commission to keep Cold Springs rural for a less dense area that is safer and quieter. End of comments. Thank you.
Any further public comment?
So,
We
Mr.
have no
Chair,
further public comment.
It's Nate Edwards again. I did see in the chat feature a message from Stacy Dynan indicating she had sent an email on April 15th to Mr. Kalan, wondering if that was going to be heard. I don't know if that email was ever received or if it's part of the packet, but perhaps you could open the floor to Ms. Dynan or Danon to speak under public comment right now. And then there's one other individual that I also saw another message from in the chat feature. I'll mention after you're done with this one.
Next is Stacy Denon.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I did send a 3-page letter to the planner with Washoe County several weeks ago. It is 3 pages, and I only have 3 minutes, so I will just reiterate a few of the points. My property is directly affected by this proposal, and I have lived in my home for 23 years. I have also lived in Cold Springs my whole life. This proposal does not come with the character and vision of Cold Springs Valley. High density is not needed in Cold Springs. We already have a diverse community of people and homes. Apartment condos and townhomes are not necessary. I understand the land is zoned for medium density and always a possibility it may be developed, but medium density development would match the existing home. Most people purchase in Cold Springs for the open areas and beautiful views. If people want tiny home living, there's many available properties in the North Valley or in the Reno Sparks area. This proposal is not aimed at bettering Cold Springs. This development is only in the best interest of the developer. Since only 47.19 acres of the 127 acres would be easily developed, it is more cost effective for the developer to put high density and built close together or higher to make projects more cost effective and profitable. If the developer were to build medium density housing, he would not have a very profitable area, therefore making the proposed development not for profit. Profit should not be a reason that the commissioners approve this development. And I agree with everybody else when it comes to traffic and light pollution and noise pollution. So I won't go into all that, but there is a 3-page letter that was supposed to be submitted with Mr. Callahan. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Ms. Denon's letter was, in fact, it's part of your application
Yeah,
packet.
yeah, it is. I see it. I found it. So, based on Council Edwards.
Mr. Chair, it's Nate again. I thought that might be the case. I just wanted to make sure that she was afforded the chance to speak if she wanted to. And then also, I noticed that Mr. Martin's letter that he read during public comment, that was in the supplemental materials that were posted to the website today. I checked on that while he was doing his comment, so that's in the record as well. And then the other individual I mentioned a moment ago that I saw in the chat feature was Jacob Monticelli, who indicated that he had sent an email at 9:44 this morning and that it didn't get read. And I was wondering if you could open the floor for Mr. Monticelli to speak in case he wanted to. I did see in the packet, appears to be an email from a Shannon Monticelli. I don't know if there's a connection there or not, but I didn't see Jacob Monticelli's in there, and I may have skimmed past it, but I don't think I saw it. So if you could open the floor and see if Mr. Monticelli would like to speak.
Okay.
Are you
Jacob
referring to
Monticelli, if you'd like
Shannon
to speak.
Monticelli? Mr. Edwards?
We do have Jacob.
No last name, so I.
Are you there, Jacob?
Mr. Chair, I didn't catch that question. What was it?
We have a Jacob, but we don't have a last name that's on Zoom.
I have a Jacob and I just gave him permission to control his microphone.
Okay.
So if you'd like, if the Jacob entered simply as Jacob in Zoom would like to speak, you may.
Okay, Jacob, if you'd like to speak, enter your full name, and you'll have 3 minutes.
I can unmute him if you, I mean, he can do it himself, but I can unmute him.
Jacob, would you like to speak?
It's still showing that his microphone's not.
If you'd like to speak, would you please unmute your microphone?
I'm going to consider that no response. Any further?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have one other point on that. Is there anyone on staff that is aware of whether?
I am not Jacob Monticelli. I am.
Hey, there we go.
Okay. You have 3 minutes. Go ahead. I'm going to consider that no response.
Oh, there we go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have one other point on that.
He's watching on YouTube.
Is there anyone?
He's watching you on YouTube, there's a delay, so should turn off the YouTube or silence it while making his public comment,
Okay.
so he's not confused.
Jacob, you need to silence your YouTube or turn it off while you're making public comment because there's a delay. So turn it off and make your public comment and then turn it back on. Mr. Edwards, I need some direction here.
Jacob just unmuted his microphone.
Okay.
Jacob, are you there?
Yes. Go ahead.
That was Nate asking if Jacob was available.
Jacob, would you like to speak?
With my computer, but I am not Jacob Monticelli.
Oh, okay. Mr. Chair, so it sounds like that's a different person. The last thing I would ask on that is, does anyone from staff know if they saw that email or if that email came in or where it might be?
From Jacob Monticelli.
Do we know?
People are checking.
Huh?
They're checking.
It's not in the packet that I can see, no. Sorry, Nate, we don't have that email.
Nate, as you indicated, there was one by Shannon Monticelli Melrose, but that's all we have.
Okay, yeah, I saw that one as well. I'm seeing another message in the chat feature that indicates that he does not want to speak. So that's what I'm seeing on here. That's all, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to make sure everybody was covered.
So what's your advice, Mr. Edwards?
I think you can move on. The indication I'm getting is that he does not wish to speak.
Okay. Seeing as there's no further public comment,
Mr. Chair, if I may, just to respond to Commissioner Chivilicek's original question, there is a fire station, a Truckee Meadows Fire Station, number 42, within very close proximity to the proposed site, probably a quarter of a mile.
thank you. Okay. Does the committee, I'm closing public comment. Does, I'm going to bring it back to the commission for discussion. Is there any discussion on this or any questions, any further questions of staff or the applicant?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Civilacek.
Yes, in our supplemental information that we received, we did receive a letter from Washoe County Health District
Right.
in terms of EMS and oversight to review this project may have impacts regarding EMS response time. I believe we heard previously that the county, the Truckee Meadows Regional Fire Protection District Station has one ALS. And as we are acutely aware that most of our emergency response are medical and not fire, but we do have to be cognizant of wildland fires, particularly in that area, well, in the entire North Valleys. But it's concerning that there are issues with regards to response times.
Okay, so we are here for commission discussion. And did you want to comment further on that letter or on any other subject? Commissioner Donchak,
No, I'm fine at this moment. No more discussion.
Commissioner Bruce, Commissioner Nelson.
Commissioner Barnes?
Yeah. Are you still awake? James?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
You got any comment? Or discussion?
No, I had a question for staff regarding the traffic. Do you feel like the traffic is a concern out there?
Dan Colon, for the record, we address traffic at the tentative map stage, which is after the regulatory zone amendment stage. So we would address that through a traffic study at that stage.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
Thank you, Dan. Anybody while Dan's up, got any questions for him? Okay. Seeing there's no further discussion amongst us, I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Civilacek.
I'm prepared to make a motion. Regulatory Zone Amendment Case Number WRZA 20-0004, Village Parkway Rezone. I move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Planning Commission deny the regulatory zone amendment. And I cannot make findings in number 2 with regards to adjacent land uses, and it will adversely impact public health, safety, and welfare. I cannot make finding in number 4. There is not adequate transportation for infrastructure into that area currently. And I cannot make finding in number 5 with regards to policies and actions of the Washoe County Master Plan.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Civilacek and a second by Commissioner Bruce. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, I'm gonna call for a vote, and then I would like each commissioner to give. Let's just call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, denial passes unanimously. Now, I'll start with Commissioner Nelson. Can you give me the findings that, just for the record, that you could not?
I agree with Commissioner Svilicek in findings 2, 4, 5.
Okay. Commissioner Bruce?
I also agree. The findings, I can't find favorably for items 2, 4, 5.
Commissioner Doncheck?
I agree with Commissioner Vilcek. I cannot find with the findings for 2, 4, or 5.
Commissioner Barnes?
I cannot make the findings of findings 2, 4, and 5.
Okay, and I, as the chair, cannot make the findings as 2, 4, 5, and 6. So that's for the record. The Planning Commission denies approval of WRZA 20-0004 unanimously. And we'll leave, that takes us out of public hearings, and
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, can I read the appeal procedure?
okay, yeah.
That most decisions rendered by the Planning Commission are appealable to the Board of County Commissioners. If you disagree with the decision of the Planning Commission and you want to appeal its action, you may do so in writing within 10 calendar days from the date that the decision being appealed is signed by the Planning Commission Chair and/or the Secretary of the Planning Commission, filed with the Secretary of the Planning Commission, and mailed to the original applicant, and the proceeding being appealed in accordance with Washoe County Code. Please call the Planning Commission staff immediately at 328-6100 for information on the appeal procedure and application fee.
Thank you. Okay, we move to item 8, Chair and Commission items. Any future agenda items? Seeing none, request for information from staff.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Svilicek.
Yes, just to acknowledge staff for getting us the information on the public lands bill. So thank you very much.
That would be Jamie Rodriguez in the manager's office. Thank you, Jamie.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Chesney.
Commissioner Nelson.
I can appreciate staff asking more questions on the sewer capacity issue, but it would be helpful, since we know the dwelling units that they're after, to find out how much capacity that will eat up. It's the same, whether it's water, sewer, traffic, that kind of thing. It just helps, since we don't have the tentative map, it just helps give us a guideline of saying, well, they have this much capacity, but how much will be utilized would be nice as well.
Okay.
It's sort of like throwing the barn door open before you know what's outside without that information.
Okay. So we'll move to item 9, Director and Legal Counsel items. Report on previous Planning Commission items.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I do have something to report on. You may remember a similar RZA for Highland Village in Sun Valley that was denied by the Planning Commission that went last week to the County Commission. It was neither approved nor denied. It was, in fact, remanded back to this board for a recommendation. That was decided they would like to see a development agreement to be able to cap the density at a lower density than what was proposed. So you will be seeing that in the near future.
Great, thank you. Mr. Edwards, are there any legal information or updates?
No, I don't have anything other than, generally speaking, you may or may not have seen the governor's press conference last Thursday. Right now, as I understand it, sort of the phase 1 soft reopening target is May 15th. We don't know yet if or when these Zoom-style meetings are going to be over and we're going to be back to normal procedures. But I'll, I'll be in touch with staff. We'll be trying to keep you guys in the loop with that as best we can. And hopefully it's soon, right? Also, thank you to staff. I know they're juggling a lot of things at the same time here with this, you know, not just staff at the dais, but also the IT, the tech staff at the county. You know, we've got television feeds going, YouTube channel, Washoe County Live web stream, plus Zoom, plus, you know, 311 voicemails, you know, emails, Zoom public comment, and it's sort of a fast-moving scenario that we're in right now. So thank you for helping us all out with that. We all appreciate it, I think. I don't have anything else on the legal front. I'll just keep you apprised as I become aware of information on those kind of issues.
Thank you, Council Edwards. Any general public comment?
We have no request for public comment.
Then I'll call for a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Whoa. Okay. Mr. Barnes, adjourn.